are currently in the very last hours of summer. As you know, fall will begin this evening at 9:54 p.m. So that's when the equinox will be. And so I want you to enjoy the rest of the summer and think how much it's already starting to feel like fall. For who, are Bulldogs fans, you're awfully happy to know that that part of the fall season has come and we've survived another day today. For those of you who are Jaguars fans, we're all still kind of crossing our fingers for tomorrow. For those of you who are Braves fans, what do you know? We're going to the playoffs. Okay, that's fantastic. We're going to go over several things. Usually we talk in the amphitheater, but I think we'll have our gathering here. We've got a very important dedication to make in a few minutes. The harks all the way back to the very beginning of the Okefenokee Swamp Park. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and then we're going to bring Mr. Johnny Hickox up to say a few words. Then I'm hoping that to prevail on your patience, because we've got some really exciting things looking forward to the future of the whole Okefenokee Swamp and the Okefenokee Swamp Park that you'll want to know. And then I promise you we'll get to the point where we say a blessing and we go have dinner. Dinner will be served in the pavilion right over there. So think about this. 72 years ago, this park opened up to the public. And almost overnight was a great sensation. It was an amazing thing for the American people. World War II was over. People were buying cars. There was a great economic prosperity. We were on the #1 highway from Maine to Miami. And people were pulling over. Movies were being made in the Okefenokee Swamp Park. And it was a matter of great fascination that you could get this close to live alligators in the wild. And there were pens of alligators, too. And in a conversation with Johnny Hickox earlier, he was confiding to me that Dr. Hafford, who was one of the driving forces at that time, leading a group of citizens from Waycross, who helped convince the state of Georgia to convert this from being the Okefenokee Swamp Park, which was a state park just down the road from Laura Walker State Park, into a private, non-profit park that would always be non-profit, so nobody makes any money. We're all volunteers here that are on the board of trustees anyway, and let us open it to the public in that way, and that was successful. But even before this park opened, Johnny Hickox, who had served our country in World War II, who had grown up right down the road here, was back here, and young Johnny Hickox was the man that Dr. Hafford tapped on the shoulder and said, "Son, we got to make this place look a little bit better before folks start coming around here, before the governor gets down here, before we do this." So he has been associated with the Swamp Park since before it was the Okefenokee Swamp Park that opened in 1946. That's an amazing thing. Not yet. So it opened, and there was so much excitement, and there was building, and of course what we're seeing now, it looks nothing like what these things must have looked like 70 years ago. We have archives now that we are starting to organize, and Leslie Renew and Teresa Gaines, where are you ladies? Raise your hands, stand up. Have been really active in organizing the archives that we have dating back that far. You've done a great job with what we have here, and it will not be long that we'll be asking those of you and others in the public, if you have things left over from when the Swamp Park was young, and you've saved it because it was your grandmother's, or it's in a box somewhere and you just don't know what to do with it, we're going to be ready to accept some of those things in order for them to be properly preserved and properly displayed and be able to be available for people who will come here 100 years from now and be interested in what was going on in the Okefenokee Swamp 100 years ago or 200 years ago. So thank you so much for those of you who are helping us preserve our past. As the Swamp Park grew, Johnny, I hope will tell you some of these things in his own words, but he's awfully modest sometimes and may not. Became a guide, and he worked for the Georgia Forestry Service as well. When the big fires came in the 50s, 53 to 55, the big swamp fire, he has told me stories of how he personally drove a tractor with a plow in it from right out here all the way down to Folkestone and back to ditch the area. As part of what he did, he said that he became the chief guide and also was responsible for the construction of many of the boardwalks that are still here. He has been such an active part of the life and history and accomplishments that have occurred out here as millions of visitors from all over the world have visited and know the Okefenokee Swamp Park through this window that we provide here at the Okefenokee Swamp Park. And I'm sure things would not look the same. I'm sure that we would not be as proud as we are of what we have here if it were not for Johnny Hickox and the hundreds of young men and young women who he touched as part of his leadership and as part of the activities and leadership that he performed here in all the different roles. He did construction on different projects. He just told me that it got to the point where even when he thought he was done out here, if there was something else that needed to be done, it was like, nobody know how to do this? Call Johnny. He'll know. And he did. So one of the things that he'll tell us is Liston Elkins, who was also one of the major ramrods that helped to start this, who's a brilliant man. Liston Elkins took a look around and he said, you know, we're going to need an oak tree right over here. Johnny, see what you can do. And Johnny, and a story that I hope he's going to tell us, was able to work with some other men and find an oak tree that was not that far from here. Literally, he didn't plant an acorn here 70 years ago. This is an older tree than that. Dig the tree up, figure out in those days how to cut the limbs off, how to cut it back, how to help it survive a fairly, rough summer, a rough winter, and put it in a situation so that it could grow and prosper and spread over this entire area. Now, this is a live oak. It's a state tree of Georgia, and it's about to be dedicated in the honor and the name of Johnny Hickox. And I'm about to unveil the plaque now. But I'm going to tell you what I'm unveiling is a temporary plaque, because we've got a bronze plaque that's one of those permanent bronze historical marker plaques that's coming. But I'd like to do that now. John, if you'll stand up right here, please. Mary, would you like to help me? Right over here. Okay. Now, if y'all got a camera, you might want to bring it. Okay, I'm going to let you help me take this off. Take it off. All right. Now I'm going to read this to you. It says, this magnificent live oak is named in honor of Johnny Hickox, a true swamper who planted it and has nurtured it, as well as the Okefenokee Swamp Park for decades. September 22nd, 2018. Johnny, it's your turn. Come up here or stand right here, wherever you would.
Or sit down, whatever you need to do.
Yeah, I'm going to sit down. Yeah. Hold it in the real close.
Yeah, I'm real glad to be here to tell about this tree. I set this tree out in 1960. Yeah, 1960. I don't remember where it was a year later. I didn't write no dates down or nothing. But when we decided to put this tree here, Liston Elkins was Swamp Park manager at the time. And he looked around and said, it sure would be nice if we had an oak tree. And I said, well, we talked about it a little bit. Said, the oak tree is, you put a little one out, it's going to take a long time for it to grow up big enough to notice. And Uncle Wilcox come in, and Aunt Lucas. And Uncle Will started telling about somebody that set out one just like this, taking a tree that was about 15 foot high, cut all the limbs off of it, and then we set it out, and it looked like a big old post. It was about probably 10 inches, 8 or 10 inches in diameter when we set it out. And where we cut those limbs off of it, we taken clay and put about probably about 2 or 3 inches thick, patted it down and put burlap bags over it. and let it sit there through the rest of part of the winter. And the spring come, we pulled those bags off, and we started noticing little green sprouts coming out. So our tree began to start growing, and it's been growing ever since. And I'm real happy the way that it turned out. I never had set one out that way before, and never have set one out since, just like that. But it can be done.
Tell us something else you remember about the old swamp park and how what you used to do.
And that's a sweet gum tree over there. Me and Miss Lucas set that out. We got it down of the next county over here. Yeah, Charleston County. And but we didn't cut the limbs off of it. And it has a lot of berries, like pods of things on it. It's good for Christmas decoration. But we had a lot of visitors coming in to the swamp there, and you had all kind of questions with all the people that was in here. I've had people to ask me about how long did it take y'all to get all that moss put up back there. But this tree over here had them little balls on it we use for decoration. People would ask me, well, what is that? And I'd tell them it's a kidney stone. But we had people, one of the main things is this water in here fitting to drink. Uncle Will says, yes, says, people that drink this water hardly ever die. But it's full of Gatorade. But when the swamp park finally, when it opened up and got started, we had pretty good little crowds in here. And then finally we got the school kids coming in, and there have been times in here that we have had 1,500 people in a day in the Okefenokee Swamp. And all them people that come in, that what didn't have questions, wanted to ride the boats. Some of them wanted to go in the swamp and tour it out and see what it was. And I had a part of all of it to do. I enjoyed all of it too.
I want you to go back and tell us a little bit about when you were a boy before you went off and how you helped your father who had one arm hunt gator.
Oh yeah. Well, my dad was the beginning of the Okefenokee. He was a gator hunter. Also more, but there's some things I can't tell. but anyway, I was the only boy that he had there to help him. He was one-armed, and you had to get out in the swamp there to find an alligator and kill him. And he could do all of that if I could get him in the boat and get him out there. And
so you did that with an electric motor, right?
no, a push pole.
That's why he couldn't do it.
Yes, but he did get later on. He got mixed up with the park here, and he run some boat tours with motors. But he could handle that with one hand pretty good. But my foster daddy, my mother passed away when I was 4 years old, and that was 90 years ago, right close. And I'm working on trying to get to see her again. But I didn't go to school. Went to school some. I was in the second grade 2 years. But I got kicked out of school. My foster parents that adopted me, they put me to working on the farm, clearing land, planting stuff and everything. So I just give up it. When I was 13 years old, I started plowing in the fields just like a grown-up, and let schooling go. But when I went in the Army, that was a mistake that I made, not getting my schooling. And I got along there pretty good. Started driving people around, hauling them back into with jeeps and things over in Germany and France. And met up with General Hill over there. And I drove him a time or two. And he finally decided he needed a sergeant to drive him. And so they fixed that up with me. And I spent 2 years over there and a half. Got my sergeant stripes and all. But I have done a lot of hard work. I've enjoyed most of it. And I'm real thankful for the Swamp Park. I mean, I can't never forget the Swamp Park. Because it's been good to me. When I went to, Liston Elkins run me down to hire me. And he offered me $32 a week. And I told him I couldn't do that. I was working with the forestry. And I said, the forestry pays me twice that. So he thought for a while. He said, well, we can do that. So when I come to the Swamp Park, I was working with the forestry, and they had me driving a big truck. And I was off to Gulfport, first one place and another. Didn't know my way around too good, and I didn't like that job. And I had kids at school, at home. I was having to leave them, sometimes be gone 3 days to a week at a time. And I wanted to get rid of that. I said, if I can get to Swamp Park, I'll be where I can be at home with the kids at night. And that happened good.
How long did you work there?
I worked with the forestry back, all told there, 11 years. But I worked out here, all my time out here run up to about 30 years.
And how many gators did you catch all that time?
I caught a lot of gators, caught little bears, raised them here, gators, animals, and raccoons. Finally, one day somebody found a bed of little skunks. There's 5 of them. Brought them right to me. So I told Mr. Elkins, my boss man, I said, we can get them these skunks. He said, well, see what you can do. So I went up and talked with him, the vet up there. He said I'd do it for $25 a piece. I come back and told Mr. Elkins, he said, no, we can't spend money like that. And, so I talked with them a little more, and they said, well, you can do it, so we'll show you how. They told me how, and I done a good job. After I'd done that and got by, I done took several more around. But I'd rather not to have that job.
There was drawbacks to that.
But I got into a lot of things. I've caught a many a rattlesnake and brought in here. I'm around in the edges here. But I had real good help. Clint Lucas, Hawk Dials, Will Cox, Gid Cox. They was right here with me. The Hall family, they moved in here. We had 4 or 5 boys of them all the time working with us. A lot of people worked in the swamp park. Yeah, I wasn't by myself.
Tell us about some of the movie stars you worked with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got into that. I mean, before that, I started with Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. I mean, I would help them make movies there when they would come out, and they'd make movies of animals and then about them doing their little thing there. I worked a while with them, and then when the Swamp Park started making movies, well, I joined right in with them. I had a lot of parts in it. Enjoyed that.
Tell us some of the ones whose names you remember. Walter Brennan.
Yeah. I've had all kind of people in here. Dick Harvey was in here with me. Several movie people. And I've got a little bit old. And it's messed up my memories. A lot of things I can't remember too good that I went through with. Not just them that I don't want to tell, but can't tell. But I lost my wife, my first wife. We lived together 57 years. And after I lost her, I hung back for about a year or longer. Met up with this young lady here. And been with her now for 11 years. She's a Hatfield. Yeah, her great uncle is, what is his name? Devil Lance Hatfield. He's that mean fella. They've made some movies with him now. And he was pretty rough. He's about like some of the Coxers and Tatums on the
Well, I don't know about whether his remembrances are getting harder to make, but one thing is for sure, with the naming of this great oak here, people are going to remember you here for a long time. Thank you so much. This is so special for me. Let's talk about some other things that are happening, and I want to welcome those of you who are here. We clearly have a lot of family and friends and church members of Johnny's church family. We have members of our board of trustees that are here. We have our volunteers that are here, a significant donor population to the Osprey Society that's here. Mr. Michael Lusk, who's the manager of the Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge, is here increasingly with us. And I'm going to start this next part of the story of telling you that for several years now we've been talking about what all we're doing to work more closely together. And thanks to his leadership, we are working really closely now for the 3 entrances to the Okefenokee Swamp, the Folkestone entrance, the Fargo entrance, and the Waycross entrance, to be much more coordinated in helping to develop a plan to encourage more people from all over the world to come and experience the Okefenokee Swamp in the different ways that we have to present it through our different entrances. As part of that effort, next month, we're going to be on a team together that's called a team participating in a 3-day workshop. That's a national workshop that's being held in Georgia and it's balancing nature and commerce in small communities. And we're very excited. We've been meeting together, very excited at his leadership. As part of what we're going to be doing to promote the Okefenokee also, I want you to know, those of you who have drive on Interstate 95, who've ever driven south from South Carolina, as you come across the border, there's a brand new welcome center on 95 in the north part of that stretch in Georgia. And they have invited us to create an Okefenokee Swamp exhibit to go inside this welcome center. Now, that's a rare thing, number one, and there are 2.5 million people that get out of their cars and walk into this welcome center every year. These are not counting the people that get out of their cars and go to the bathroom. These are the people that come in going, well, okay, I'm here in Georgia. Let's see, what there is to do here. So we're going to have the opportunity to reach out, and we're developing and designing this exhibit to go in. We're going to have to fund it. And some of you are donors, and some of the efforts that you've made here have already helped in the design phase of the project. That's why your efforts are so important to what we do. In addition, you've been hearing about our master plan, and I want you to know that is going along in a very exciting pace. We have, we're working with an architectural firm out of Atlanta that designs national refuge and national park entrances and welcome centers. And they are working with us in a design to open up our welcome center as you come through the gift shop. And we're going to actually, on this space right over here, we are designing now, and we'll be opening designing building from scratch and opening a building that'll have more than one room. There's going to be a room for temporary classroom and also for traveling exhibits, so that you can always come out here and see something new. And in this other space, there's going to be 3,000 square feet devoted to the American alligator, and the coolest museum to the alligator that's going to exist anywhere in the world. That's cool. And I tell you that because right now what you got, alligators are, there's this and that, and alligators live here, so let's tell you a little bit of the alligator. This is going to talk about where they came from, how they survived from the dinosaur ages, how they have come in today, what the lifestyle is. We'll have aquariums with baby alligators in them, and there'll be interactive exhibits where you can touch screens and learn more as much as you want to learn. There'll be places where you can press a button and different alligator sounds will be made. I'm in danger. Hey, I'm looking for a girlfriend. The different sounds that alligators make, and don't you know that you're going to be hearing those sounds if there's a kid anywhere nearby to push the buttons. We're really excited about this. We're not quite to the point, well, just to say, this is moving along, and this is something of great excitement. We are increasing our marketing efforts. If any of you have ever or are interested, they came out to the park late last year to do a segment on the Okefenokee Swamp Park as part of the new Authentic Georgia program that's been launched by the Georgia Chamber of Commerce. And if you can remember those words, Authentic Georgia, if you'll go to their website and play the little video, it's very interesting and shows a lot of people, a lot of the things here. And I have heard a ton of feedback from my friends in other parts of Georgia who have seen this and are interested in coming down and participating. As you probably know, remember last year when we signed our partnership with the University of Georgia Odom School of Ecology, we now have on site a full-time graduate student, Kristen Zemedes. Kristen, raise your hand for Kristen. Kristen is doing her graduate research on the American alligator and especially female alligators. And we have gotten to the point now where we've actually tagged with satellite tags 3 of our female alligators. And if you want to see how they're doing or where they are, what they're up to, then aside from our website, you can go to a website called OCEARCH, O-C-E-A-R-C-H, which is where the great white sharks are tracked. And due to her professor, Dr. Kimberly Andrews, who many of you have met here at other events, she's down in Costa Rica doing saltwater crocodile research. But she made some connections through Judge Seymour, former Congressman Carter's former aide, and the OCEARCH people who have been following great white sharks because they're the apex predator of the marine environment of the oceans. And said, well, hey, what about the apex marine predator of the Okefenokee Swamp? Would you be interested in following some of them? And they said, well, that makes sense. So that's the alligator. So this website actually has millions of people who they're tracking their sharks, and we hope to create a similar amount of interest on tracking American alligators here in our swamp. There are other things too. I just want to share with you the enthusiasm that your board of trustees has. And remind you that we're all volunteers. Remind you that every time you write a check to us, it goes to a 501c3 not-for-profit, and every amount of money, any amount of money, is something that we desperately need in order to bring our vision to fruition. We appreciate so much those of you who have supported us, those of you who volunteer out here, those of you who come out here, and those of you who say good things about us in the meantime. We appreciate so much the folks who have come before us. And I'm going to include my mother over here, who is one also 2 weeks older than Johnny Hickox, so he calls her the old lady. She was one of the original investors when the people in Waycross raised money to open this up as a swamp park. She bought a share of stock, and she was a teenager, however old she was. But thank you very much for having that kind of vision even back then. And is Martin? Okay, Martin, what am I leaving out?
Nothing. You did a great job. Thanks everybody for coming.
Oh, wait, I know, wait. One of our board members, Jeff McCutcheon. Jeff, where are you? So Jeff brewed a special beer for your entertainment this evening. It's been in here. It's now set up. Everything has now been moved to the pavilion. And for those of you who haven't tasted it yet, it's made with Swamp Park honey, Okefenokee Swamp Park honey, and mango. And so it's a swamp honey ale. And for this evening, I want you to know that we've given it the name of Johnny Hickox. Okay, so in a minute we're going to have supper. It's a barbecue supper with a gator tail. There'll be ribs and chicken and pulled pork and baked beans and coleslaw and macaroni and cheese. And there's wine and soft drinks and other things that are over there. You will uncover, we'll have a blessing, and then you can proceed that way. I would encourage those of you who want to have photographs taken though with Johnny to bring your cameras, and we'll take the photographs here as everybody else is going to say. Our gracious Heavenly